Have you ever stopped to think about why some people seem to feel everything more intensely? Why certain situations that go unnoticed by most people trigger an avalanche of sensations, thoughts, and even physical symptoms in you? For years, we've been taught that being too sensitive is a problem, a weakness that needs to be corrected, hidden, or even medicated. We've been told to swallow our tears, harden our hearts, grow a thick skin to survive in this world. But what if I told you that this entire narrative is completely wrong? What if your heightened sensitivity wasn't a factory defect, but actually the greatest gift the universe could have given you? Imagine for a moment that you were born equipped with an advanced radar, a cosmic antenna capable of picking up frequencies that most people simply cannot tune into. Think of your sensitivity not as a vulnerability, but as a supreme intuitive compass, a surgically precise instrument that connects you directly to the invisible currents that move reality. This is a portal we've been crossed together today, and I guarantee you that on the other side exists a completely different version of yourself, someone who finally understands the extraordinary power that they've always carried within. The truth no one told you is that we live immersed in an ocean of subtle information that completely transcends the 5 basic senses. While most people navigate through life perceiving only the surface of things, registering what's obvious and tangible, you're constantly receiving data from much deeper layers of existence. When you walk into a room and immediately feel a tightness in your chest for no apparent reason, it's not paranoia or baseless anxiety, it's your intuitive compass detecting energetic residue, unresolved conflicts, emotional tensions that have been imprinted in that space. When you're talking with someone and you sense a dissonance between what the person is saying and what you feel emanating from them, it's not excessive distrust, it's your sensitivity decoding the real language that transcends words, that authentic communication that happens between energetic fields, between essences. How many times have you known something was wrong before you had any concrete proof? How many times have you felt a change approaching days or weeks before it manifested in physical reality? This isn't coincidence, it's your antenna picking up the signals that the universe is constantly sending, those advanced warnings that arrive first on the subtle plane before materializing on the dense plane. The big problem is that we grew up in a society that exclusively values logical thinking, the rational, the measurable. From childhood, we're taught to trust only what can be proven, weighed, measured, dissected in a laboratory. Intuition, sensitivity, energetic perception, all of this has been relegated to the realm of the imaginary, the subjective, what has no real value. So what happens? People like you, gifted with this extraordinary capacity for deep reading of reality, spend their entire lives feeling inadequate, strange, out of place. You start doubting your own perceptions because they don't fit into the socially accepted model. When you feel someone's heavy sadness, even though that person is smiling, you learn to ignore it because, after all, the person is smiling, right? When you sense that a path isn't right, even though everyone around you says it makes perfect sense, you learn to suffocate that inner voice because you don't have logical arguments to support it. And so, little by little, you shut down your own navigation system, dim the light of your intuitive compass, try to adapt to a world that simply wasn't designed for people who see beyond the veil. But here's the fundamental plot twist that can change everything for you from this exact moment forward. This sensitivity you carry isn't random. It's not a genetic accident. It's not karmic punishment. It's an extremely refined evolutionary tool that some beings develop over multiple lifetimes, a capacity that allows you to operate on levels of consciousness that most haven't awakened to yet. Think in terms of evolution itself. In any ecosystem, some individuals are born with characteristics that make them better suited to perceive subtle changes in the environment, to anticipate dangers, to detect opportunities that others don't see. In nature, these characteristics aren't weakness, they are crucial adaptive advantages for the survival and evolution of the entire species. The same principle applies to human beings on a much more sophisticated level. Your heightened sensitivity places you at the forefront of human consciousness evolution. You're among those who came equipped to lead humanity in the transition from a consciousness based purely on ego and the material to an expanded consciousness that embraces more subtle dimensions of existence. Now, let's dive deeper into exactly how this intuitive compass works, because understanding the mechanism is the first step to using it consciously instead of passively suffering with it. Think of your nervous system as a network of ultra-sensitive antennas. While most people have antennas that only pick up AM radio stations, so to speak. You have complete equipment that picks up shortwave, satellite, amateur radio frequencies, and even signals that haven't been cataloged by science yet. Your physical body, especially your nervous system, heart, and solar plexus, functions as a translator of these subtle frequencies. When you come into contact with a person, situation, or environment, an instantaneous energetic exchange happens. Your field overlaps with the other's field, and information is transmitted in both directions. Most people don't consciously register these exchanges because their receivers are calibrated only for very crude stimuli. But you register everything, every nuance, every variation, every dissonance. That's why you leave crowded places exhausted not out of weakness, but because your system processed immense volumes of information that others didn't even pick up. The crucial question now is this: how do you transform this passive reception of signals into active utilization of your intuitive compass? How do you stop being a sponge that merely absorbs everything around you and become a conscious navigator who uses this information to make decisions aligned with your higher purpose? The first essential movement is validation. You need to stop doubting your perceptions and start documenting them, testing them, verifying them. When you feel something about a person or situation, write it down. When you have a hunch about a future event, record it. Over time, you'll accumulate undeniable evidence of your intuition's accuracy, and this will immensely strengthen your confidence in this internal navigation system. The second movement is discernment. Not everything you pick up is necessarily about you or for you. Sometimes you're simply tuning into frequencies from a collective environment, learning to distinguish between what's yours, what's someone else's, and what's from the collective field is a skill that develops with practice and constant self-observation. The third movement, perhaps the most powerful of all, is conscious protection. Not protection in the sense of closing yourself off, building walls, or hardening your heart, but protection in the sense of establishing healthy energetic boundaries. You can be sensitive and permeable without being invaded and drained. There are simple but deeply effective practices for this. Visualizing yourself surrounded by a golden or silver light before leaving home, with a clear intention that this light allows entry only to frequencies that serve your higher good and reflects back what isn't yours. Cultivating a habit of energetically cleansing your field after intense interactions, whether through baths with coarse salt, through visualizations, or through contact with nature. Practicing grounding consciously and regularly connecting with Earth's energy, which has an extraordinary capacity to absorb and transmute dense energies. These aren't mystical practices disconnected from reality ancestral technologies of energetic management that indigenous cultures and spiritual traditions around the world have developed over millennia. Now, follow me in this reflection that may sound radical, but is absolutely true. The biggest personal crises that sensitive people face generally aren't true. Crises are crises of translation. You're picking up signals that something needs to change, that a cycle is ending, that you're being called to a new level of expression of your essence, but you don't know how to interpret these signals correctly. So what appears to be anxiety is actually creative anticipation. What appears to be depression is actually a period of necessary withdrawal before a great transformation. What appears to be chronic restlessness is actually your soul nudging you to leave your comfort zone. When you learn to read your sensitivity as the universe's language, everything changes. That tightness in your chest before making an important decision stops being seen as paralyzing fear and becomes recognized as your internal alarm system warning you that that path isn't aligned with your truth. That sensation of expansion and lightness when you think about something stops being seen as escapist fantasy and becomes recognized as your internal GPS indicating the correct direction. There's a story I like to share because it perfectly illustrates this point. Imagine two people walking through the same forest. One of them sees only trees, earth, and sky. The other, the sensitive person, notices that the birds suddenly fell silent, that the air changed slightly in temperature, that there's a different smell in the air. While the first person continues walking carefree, the second feels an internal alert and stops, paying attention. Minutes later, a storm unleashes over the forest. Whoever was paying attention to the subtle signs had time to seek shelter. Whoever only registered the obvious was caught by surprise. This metaphor applies to all areas of life. Relationships, career, health, financial decisions, life choices. Sensitive people who have learned to trust their intuitive compass navigate existence with a formidable advantage. They avoid toxic people before getting deeply involved. They exit situations that will deteriorate before total collapse. They invest energy in directions that will bear fruit, not because they're fortune tellers, but because they're tuned into frequencies of information that arrive before events fully materialize. And here we arrive at an absolutely crucial point that could be the great watershed moment for you. Your sensitivity doesn't exist only to protect you from dangers and guide you to opportunities. There's an even deeper and more transcendent dimension to this capacity. You're directly connected to the evolutionary currents of planetary consciousness. You feel collective pains, collective joys, collective fears, collective yearnings. This means you can act as a catalyst for transformation, much greater than your individual life. When you deeply feel suffering in the world, it's not so you'll drown in idiots, so you can transmute it into active compassion. When you perceive society's destructive patterns, it's not so you'll despair it, so you can consciously choose to live differently and thus become a living example of another possibility. Sensitive people who fully embrace their nature often become artists who capture and express truths that others only feel vaguely. Healers who know exactly where to touch to unblock what's stuck. Leaders who see paths no one else saw. Teachers who perceive each student's unique needs. Activists who viscerally feel the urgency of the causes they embrace. But let's be honest about the challenges too, because embracing your sensitivity as an intuitive compass doesn't mean everything becomes easy and magical. It means you stop fighting against your own nature and start working in harmony with it. You'll still feel a lot. You'll still pick up dense and heavy frequencies sometimes. You'll still feel overwhelmed in certain situations. The difference is that now you have context, understanding, tools. You know that exhaustion after a day full of interactions doesn't mean you're weak. It means you process enough information for 10 people. You know that period of withdrawal your system asks for isn't laziness or depression, it's necessary integration. You know that your need for tranquil environments and moments of silence isn't antisocial, it's essential maintenance of your perception instrument. It's about stopping comparing yourself to people who function differently and honoring your system's unique needs. There's a fascinating phenomenon that happens when you finally fully embrace your sensitive nature. You realize that what seemed to be your greatest curse was actually your greatest blessing waiting to be recognized. The same characteristics that made you suffer in childhood and adolescence, that made you feel inadequate and out of place, reveal themselves as your greatest talents and gifts. That capacity to feel deeply transforms into genuine empathy that allows extraordinary human connections. That sharp perception of inconsistencies transforms into wisdom to see through masks and falsehoods. That attunement to subtle energies transforms into precise intuition that guides you impeccably. It's as if you spent years trying to fit into clothes that simply weren't made for you, and suddenly you discover your own wardrobe full of outfits designed exactly for your body, your style, your purpose. Now I want to invite you to do a mental exercise with me. Think of 3 moments in your life when you had a strong hunch about something and chose to ignore it to follow logic or others' opinions. What happened? In the vast majority of cases, things unfolded exactly as your intuition had signaled, didn't they? Now think of 3 moments when you trusted your subtle perception even without having concrete proof. What happened? You probably avoided problems, made correct decisions, or at minimum felt aligned with your truth, even if the external result wasn't immediately spectacular. This simple exercise reveals something fundamental: your intuitive compass works, and has always worked. The problem was never the tool, it was a lack of instruction manual. It was constant social invalidation. It was a fear of being judged as crazy or irrational. So let's establish here, and now, a new contract between you and your sensitivity. Instead of seeing it as a burden, you're going to recognize it as the superpower it truly is. Instead of trying to diminish or control it, you're going to nurture and refine it. Instead of apologizing for needing more silence, more nature, more time alone, you're going to honor these needs as non-negotiable. Instead of forcing yourself into environments and around people who drain your energy just to fit in, you're going to selectively choose where and with whom you invest your presence. Instead of doubting your perceptions, you're going to start documenting and validating them systematically. Instead of comparing yourself to less sensitive people, you're going to celebrate your unique capacity to navigate multiple dimensions of existence simultaneously. And hey, erase the final truth, perhaps the most important of all. The universe doesn't make mistakes. You didn't receive this heightened sensitivity by chance. You were chosen, prepared, equipped to perform a specific role in this unique moment of human evolution. We're going through a period of profound planetary transformation, where old paradigms are crumbling and new ones are emerging. People like you, capable of perceiving the subtle currents that move reality, are essential for this transition. It's the sensitives who first feel when social structures are obsolete. It's the intuitives who see alternative paths when the conventional path leads to the abyss. It's the empaths who keep the flame of genuine humanity alive amid growing coldness and mechanization. Your sensitivity isn't about you having an easier or more comfortable life. It's about you having the necessary tools to contribute to something greater than yourself, to serve collective evolution in ways that only someone with your perceptive capacity can do. So I invite you now, in this exact moment, to make a conscious and definitive choice. Are you going to continue fighting against your nature, trying to fit into molds that weren't made for you, suffocating your perception so as not to bother others, apologizing for being who you are? Or are you finally going to embrace the extraordinary gift you carry, study your own sensitivity like a scientist studies their research field, develop your intuitive abilities with the same dedication someone dedicates to a musical instrument, and take your place among those who came to guide, heal, and transform? The choice is yours alone. But I tell you with complete conviction, the world desperately needs people who know how to feel, who know how to perceive, who know how to tune into deeper dimensions of truth. Your sensitivity isn't your weakness, it's your supreme strength. It's not your vulnerability, it's your invincibility. It's not your problem, it's your solution for contributing to a world that long ago lost the capacity to truly feel. I want to hear from you now. After everything we've talked about here, how do you see your own sensitivity? Do you recognize these patterns in your life? Leave here in the comments at least one experience where your intuition guided you precisely, or a situation where you ignored your internal signals and later realized you should have trusted them. Let's create here a community of people who finally allow themselves to honor this extraordinary capacity without shame and without fear. And if this video resonated deeply with you, if you felt that finally someone put into words what you always knew but could never express, please click that like button and subscribe to the channel to receive more content that will help you fully awaken to who you really are. Your journey of self-discovery is only beginning, and I'm here to walk this path together with you. Until the next video, always remember your sensitivity isn't accidental, it's essential.